Good morning everybody and good morning kids. It's really great to be with you in your living rooms again. I hope you're okay. I just need to mention that a lot of you have had birthdays recently. So for any of you that have had a birthday since lockdown and we've not been together at church on a Sunday morning, happy birthday. I hope you had a good day, a different sort of day in lockdown. Now, if you remember, we are learning the story of the whole Bible in just 10 weeks, and we've nearly got to the end of the Old Testament. So let's recap the banner and see what we've done so far. I'm just going to go out of the picture quickly and we'll look at the pictures. Okay, so starting all the way right at the beginning, God made the whole world. He made Adam and Eve, who were happily living in God's beautiful garden, and God was the king over all. Adam and Eve disobeyed God. They didn't want God as their king. This ruined everything, and they were thrown out of the garden, and everyone was sad. A bit later on, God made 3 promises, 1, 2, 3, to Abraham. He said that his family would become a great nation. They would live in a special land, and through Abraham's family, God, the world, would be blessed. God kept his promises, and a descendant of Abraham's called David became the king over God's people in the land that God had promised. Everything was great, at least for a while. Then something went wrong again. King David's son Solomon disobeyed God. He started to love pretend gods. And you remember, he had lots and lots of wives. Okay, so that's where we've got to so far. Now, who's never done anything wrong? No one? We all do things wrong. And when we do things wrong, there are consequences. At home, you might have to sit somewhere by yourself, or you might have something that you like taken away from you. My children do things wrong, but when they do something wrong, we tell them to stop. Then they do it again, and we tell them to stop, or there will be consequences. Then they do it again and again. And they might say sorry each time, but eventually we say that's enough, and then there are consequences. Now, after Solomon, there were lots more kings. Some of these kings loved God and followed his rules. Others did not. Over and over again, the people would forget about the one true God, and they would love and worship other gods. God sent a special messenger to warn the people. He told the people to stop loving the gods and their idols. He said, turn back to God, or I am going to send you out of your special land. The people listened for a little bit, but then they forgot about God again and the warnings. So God sent another messenger with another warning, and they listened for a bit, but then they preferred to love their statues and their other gods. Oops. So God sent another messenger with the warning that they would be sent out of their special land, but they still did not listen. God was really patient, and he sent lots of warnings, but they kept not listening. God was really patient, and he sent lots of warnings, but then God said, that's enough. You've had enough chances, but you've not listened. God had to punish them, and it broke his heart that they disobeyed him and that he had to send them out of his land, just like he did with Adam and Eve. Now, we're going to have a look at some Lego models and some pictures of soldiers to see how that happened. So we're just going to move you over to here, and Ruben's going to help us. Okay, so this is Jerusalem. You point to the walls, Ruben. Where are the walls? This is Jerusalem, where God's people, the Israelites, lived. It had a big city wall round it, and God's temple that King Solomon built was in the centre. Where's that, Ruben? That's it. This is King point to him? The king of Babylon. He was the meanest, toughest, most nasty king around. And one day, Nebuchadnezzar sent his soldiers to march around Jerusalem. They surrounded the city walls so that no one could come in and no one could go out. Nebuchadnezzar was a greedy man. He wanted their land, their city, and their gold and silver. That's it. Well done, Reuben. Now, if the people of the city couldn't go out into the fields and no one could come in with supplies or food, there was going to be a problem. The people started to get hungry. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the army then knocked down the walls and took the people prisoner to the land of Babylon. That's it. Take a few more people out. Only a few people, oops. I don't think their legs fell off. Only a few people were left in Jerusalem. Whoops. Nebuchadnezzar and his army destroyed Jerusalem, and they took all the treasures from God's temple and from the palace. When the people got to Babylon, they had to build houses and live there, away from God's special land and God's blessing. Because they didn't want to live God's way, they were punished. Okay. But God had made a promise, hadn't he? God told Abraham that he was going to use his family to bring blessing to the whole world, to put everything right that had gone wrong. And he told King David that there was going to be a special king from his family to rule over God's people. But it seems like everybody has ruined these plans. Would God forget the promises that he has made? Well, we're going to have to wait until next week to find out what happens. Let's just look at our banner quickly this week. So you can see that the banner shows a ruined place and sad people, because God's blessing has been taken away and the people have been taken away from their land. I wonder why there's no cross through this crown though. Well, it's because God was in charge of what happened. He had to punish the people for their disobedience, and this was his way of telling them off to say that sin, ignoring God and his rules, is serious. Hopefully, none of you said that you have never done anything wrong. In the Bible, it says that we all sin, and when we sin, we choose to not do what God says, but decide for ourselves what is right and wrong. But that's God's job, and we should let him tell us what's right and wrong. And we can find out the right thing to do by reading our Bibles and by talking to God. Now, in Frozen 2, there is a song called The Next Right Thing, which is sung by Anna when she's very sad. She says that she needs to make the choice to hear that voice and do the next right thing. We need to make the choice to listen to God and to do the right thing. Now, we're going to sing a song in a minute. We're going to sing Our God is a Great Big God. And we need to not forget that God is huge, he is big, and he is powerful. He's bigger than the universe, and yet he cares for each one of us, and he loves each one of us. So we're going to go on to sing that now. I hope you have a really good week, and we'll see you next week to hear the next part of our story. Bye!